Yeah.
Guys,
Okay.
so we are now back live online. We have the second session of the day with Reuben Mere, the CEO of NGRAVE. Reuben, this is your last mentoring session. I hope you survived the heavy mentor sessions throughout last week. We're going to get through this one and then go forward in the next 3 weeks to accelerate NGRAVE. I would like a short introduction by the mentors. We have 3 mentors with us. Let's start with Dieter, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Hi. My name is Dieter. I'm mentoring in this kind of program first time. So thanks for having me on, Ram. I'm a person that is accompanying young startups that are standing in front of a good idea, trying to develop an innovation and, let me say, bring that into the market. My capabilities, which I have, let me say, built up in almost 30 years in high-tech industry, high-tech industry, which is ICT industry. I'm combining with almost 15 years startup support, but as a mentor, as an investor, as a company founder, with all the different experiences. That's what I'm combining. I'm currently supporting concurrently 4 different teams in different industries. It is enterprise software, it's fintech, and it's also additive manufacturing, which is Industry 4.0. And given my activities in these kind of, let me say, formats, I'm more than happy to ask questions, which, yeah, as Thomas said before, you might not like, but that's what we are here for, to make it, to improve on that scale and helping you. So look forward to your presentation.
Very good. Thomas, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Thomas. I am a mentor and in the startup business since 2003. Before that, my first life, I was a consultant for Accenture, also known as Anderson Consulting, also known as Arthur Anderson, for those of you who are a bit older. I spent there 20 years, was a partner at Accenture, and then left to join the startup industry by founding my own company, co-founding startups, being a managing director in several cases, business angel and mentor in not only the Accelerator Frankfurt, but also one in Berlin. And I was building the PropTech Accelerator in Frankfurt and ran that for the first wave as part of the team. My expertise is mostly in horizontal, so I'm not an expert in anything like blockchains or technologies. I have a general understanding. I help in building companies, business cases, business plans, organization, making sure that they are well established. It's not just a bunch of techies, but also some commercial knowledge in the company. Asking, as Dieter already said, the embarrassing questions. Do you have a market? Do your customers understand what you're doing? Why you're doing this? What is protected? And so forth and so forth. And yeah, help you in kind of try to not to miss out any important things when setting up a company. My hobbies is, as you can see the background, is swimming with wild dolphins, free diving in the ocean, and the other hobby is flying helicopter.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Michael from Israel, please.
So as I mentioned before, between the swimmers and the divers and everybody else, I'm an Israeli. So that's about it for me. My name is Michael. I'm running A2B Startup Accelerator within the Israeli College of Engineering. We are teaching only engineering, and within the engineers, there's a lot of ideas that we are turning into startups. So we actually established A2B 6 years ago. I had the privilege of working together with Accelerator Frankfurt from the very beginning, and saw it growing every round more and more, not only in size but in profession as well. and I'm here to help you polish whatever you need in order to raise money and get investment ready. We raised $30 million for our companies, 54 companies, and we have another 12 companies in this current round. And I'm also representing Launch It Capital. It's a VC, micro VC, investing in 32 startups already. At your service.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Reuben, tell us a little bit about yourself and get down to business.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks you could make it. My name is Reuben Merre. I assume you can see my screen. I'm just starting off with that because I just wanted to show you quickly, also a bit more tangibly, like what are we going to talk about in this session. So this device is our NGRAVE 0. Just wanted to show you two angles so that you have a bit of an idea what it looks like. This is the real version here in my hand. And so my name is Reuben Merre. I'm co-founder and CEO of NGRAVE. And we are a company, a blockchain company, actually a digital security company that is on a mission to enable you to take secure ownership and control of your assets, be it your cryptocurrencies or your digital identity, any kind of digital asset basically that is running on blockchain technology. And we are approaching it from two important angles. The first one is security has to be impeccable. The second one is user experience, which is also one of these. These two are basically some of the top hurdles keeping blockchain from worldwide adoption. That brings me to the business model canvas, I would say, because I assume it's still the starting point for the discussion. So if we zoom in on the blockchain space and the crypto industry, we noticed firsthand from our very own experiences that security is a huge problem.
Reuben, can you click away the no thanks? Sign up, no thanks. Just so it doesn't bother.
Yeah, okay,
Thanks.
didn't see it. Yes, so just very quickly, our own genesis story, let's say. So my co-founder and CTO, Xavier, he has been in the crypto space since 2013, and he had the biggest blow of all on his portfolio, which was in 2017. After they did an ICO, they were hacked for 44,000 Ethereum. Back in the days, that was $10 million. It was just before the bull run. And if they would have still had that amount of funds during the bull run, it would have been worth $40 million. What he did directly in the aftermath of realizing that they were hacked was teaming up with other great minds in the industry. And they basically did the same hack on 500 other projects with the same vulnerability. And that way they were able to steal $200 million. But they did it from a white hat hack perspective. So they actually gave all of that money back to the projects, and they did it because they wanted to protect them from the bad hackers. So they really made a big difference there. And he became CTO of the project he was working for after that. And eventually he just shifted his entire mindset towards blockchain needs to be secure. And let's say me and Edward, so the two other co-founders, we have had similar experiences. We didn't lose any like 10,000 Ether or something, but still. And that was basically the story that brought us together. And what we were looking for, so the first time we really talked about that was in April 2018, was which solution out there would we trust with our with our first and our very last Bitcoin? And we just couldn't find the answer, so we decided to build it ourselves. And fast forward, so before I go too much into that, I just want to highlight that, okay, so in 2017, security was an issue. Is it still today? Well, in 2018, the numbers were $2.5 billion of stolen crypto. It was a record year. And in 2019, so just out, $4.5 billion were stolen, so completely crushing the previous record. And if you look today at the crypto industry, we see these hacks increasing in size, in frequency. A couple of days ago, there was another one with $52 million lost. So it's a never-ending story in the crypto space. And that got us thinking about what is the actual root cause of this entire problem. And every single hack in crypto history can be brought back to one single root cause. And it is the theft or the loss of the private key. And so if we think back again just for a second, what is a private key? Well, a Bitcoin address consists of two things, a public key, which is the address to which people can send money from and to, and the private key, which is your password that gives you access to everything that's on that public key. The problem is basically this. So we call that the private key paradox. And what we mean by that is a private key. Essentially, if you do not know my private key, you can never brute force it. So you can never guess it, regardless of how strong your computer is. But if you can just find it by looking over my shoulder on my computer as an online hacker, you don't need to. You just have to find it. And a perfect example are cryptocurrency exchanges. They give you a whole list of public keys. They give you a password. You can log on to the platform, and you never even see a single private key as a user. So basically, you never own any Bitcoin. You're just a proxy mandate to the account. And they can therefore, at any point in time, run away with all your cryptocurrencies. And that is what we're seeing day in, day out. Why? Because they have the private keys. And if they don't do it themselves, maybe the hackers can beat them to it. So the security issue is huge. And we made it our mission to completely eradicate every single residual risk that there might still be. And that will bring me to my solution in a second. But if we talk about the second big problem, it's user experience. So today, if you want to do things securely, the best way you can use is the hardware wallet concept. I do not know if anybody here is aware of what a hardware wallet is, but basically it means you take a tangible device, you can create your private keys offline, and the idea is that you keep them there throughout the entire lifetime of, let's say, your Bitcoin wallet. The problem with that is that online solutions keep the keys online, get hacked, or leave with the private keys themselves. And the hardware wallets today, they don't come close in terms of security, but also not in user experience. And we did a lot of going out of the building, and we noticed that users, even if they use a simple USB stick-based hardware wallet, it's not only a hurdle to plug it into your computer, but the experience is also pretty devastating because you are online when you're doing it. That's how you feel. You feel vulnerable. You feel like somebody can steal your cryptocurrencies. And in effect, they actually can. And so that brings me to our solution. So what we have done is we have, unlike any other player in the industry, looked at security from an end-to-end perspective. So we started from the very beginning. How do you create private keys? How is that done today? And how can we do that better? Up until the point that you actually pass away. So you cease to exist. Your next of kin needs access to your crypto. How can we do that? And we also thought about every what if during that process. And I can assure you there are plenty of what ifs that are not thoroughly answered today. So how do we solve that? Well, we actually have a three-part solution. The first one
Can
is...
I just stop a minute, Reuben?
Of course.
I'd like to ask the mentors and also maybe to clarify to our viewers. So do you guys use hardware wallets? Are you aware of hardware wallets? Dieter, Thomas?
Not aware. No, I'm not using it. I'm not aware of it.
I'm not using it, but it's on my to-do list to get my cryptocurrency off the exchange where it is right now, because everybody tells me I need to secure it somehow. So yeah. I'm aware there are some USB solutions, but I've never used it so far.
So this is what I use currently up until I heard of NGRAVE. So when I hold considerable Bitcoin, considerable amount of Bitcoin or Ether, I actually use a hardware wallet, which is a USB device. And the main thing when I want to transfer anything from an exchange to this hardware wallet is when I plug the USB device to my computer, I get a little bit afraid because once it's plugged, it's online. And that is the main fear I have. And once I unplug it, I'm calm again. So this is what I wanted to clarify before Reuben gets into his device, because he will show you now.
I also have an issue with USB sticks. You have no clue, how long they last, how secure they are, how, manufacturing wise, how good they are. So just look into it.
Exactly. And so, so I assume then that you keep your cryptocurrencies in one of a few ways, which is either online on a cryptocurrency exchange, where I just highlighted that basically they create the private keys, they keep the private keys, they never share the private keys with you. So essentially, you actually still don't own any kind of crypto. You just own a password to a platform that owns crypto and it does it for you. But whenever they want, they can disappear. And it happens every day. So that's also why we know from our own experiences and from all the users we talk to that almost everybody has the same feeling when they open their crypto exchange account, when they log on, and that is it still all going to be there? And that itchy feeling that you have there, that you still have with existing hardware wallets, like Ram just illustrated, that is what we wanted to take away. So therefore, we have developed a device, a hardware wallet. Again, it basically just means it's a hardware device that you can hold in your hand. The existing ones look like USB sticks, work like USB sticks, and if we look at our solution, so it's basically a touchscreen device, edge to edge, so it's full touchscreen device. And it works completely offline. So there is no USB involved, there is no network connection involved, no Wi-Fi, 4G, Bluetooth, you name it. It is completely what we call air-gapped. And the only thing you need to do if you want to use this device is you have to tap here on the side. There's an on and off button. You tap on that, the device turns on, and you can create your private keys on the device offline. And after that, so you basically need to sync the public keys, so the addresses that are linked to the private keys on your wallet. So what we do is we create a QR code. We show that QR code to your app, you scan it, and our proprietary app, let's say, loads in all these public keys, so basically public information, and it can fetch from the blockchain everything there is on those accounts in real time. So you have a real-time overview of everything you have. You have your private keys offline. If you want to receive transactions, you basically just say to the counterparty, send me money by either scanning my QR code or by copy pasting your receive address from the clipboard. If you want to sign transaction, you initiate it on your app, you sign it with a 0, and we do that through QR codes. QR codes are very are basically a technology everybody already knows of or uses. And if you do it correctly, it basically has no security holes, but you need something like this, so real hardware wallet. And we can actually, with this device, manage your transactions, your accounts, your private keys, whatever you can think of, without ever exposing the big secrets being your private keys. Any questions on that so far? No? Okay.
How about recharging it?
So to recharge, there is here below, there is a connection possibility. So there is a USB in the device, but it is isolated from the rest of the device. So basically you can use it for wall charging. So you get a cable, you put it in the wall, charge it, it's back up and running, and you can use it again. So that's how we do the charging. Now,
Reuben, didn't you show last time in the first session also that capability that you are totally autark, kind of, in case there is no power at all, with that kind of mechanical mapping?
I'm sorry, didn't get that.
Didn't you show last time when you were showing that device first also the capability that you have a kind of a mechanical mapping, that this private code remains also valid even if there is no power anymore?
The plates, Reuben, the plates.
The plates.
The plates. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so basically, it's amazing that something like this can exist. But one of the big questions that still hasn't really been solved in the industry is, what if I lose this device? So this thing, I drop it, it's broken, or I lose it. What do I do then? And the answer in the industry today, it's incredibly simple, and it's a little bit antiquated. It's paper wallets. So people make a code, a private key on the device, they write it down on a piece of paper, and if they lose the device, they look for the piece of paper, they enter it into the device, and you have all your accounts back. Obviously, piece of paper, I spill 2 drops of water on it, and I lose my crypto forever. So it's not very durable. And there is also a second problem. So people, what they sometimes do is they cut their piece of paper into parts so that if somebody finds one of the parts, they don't have the full key. That's a good idea. The only problem is that if somebody finds one of the parts, they actually find a lot of information on their key, and they only need to brute force the other part. Then there is something that's a bit more advanced than papers. It's called metal wallets. So you just, again, enter or input that private key not on a piece of paper, but on a metal solution. Again, it's a good idea to do that. But if somebody finds the metal solution, they find your key. So it's a single point of failure that you're actually having there. And what we have invented to counteract that is our graphene solution. So just to show you that in a, very quickly. So we basically built also a metal solution, meaning that if your house burns down, these things are still there. They're very, very resilient to a lot of things, and they're basically, you could say, everlasting. And what we do is, if you look here below, I'm sorry, it's loading, I see. Oh, oops. Okay. 1 second, for some reason he's switching all the time. Yeah, so here you create your key on the device. And then what you have to do is you put those two plates on top of each other. The lower plate is just a stainless steel plate, so there's nothing on that plate, just a plain sheet. And the upper plate is a represents 64 characters, because your key is 64 characters long. So you see 64 columns, 2 times 32. And each character can have 16 values, 0 to 9, A to F, so the hexadecimal scheme. And you can see that we didn't just put like 0 to 9, A to F, we actually scramble each column. And the reason is because these upper plates are as unique as a private key. So every time you buy one, you will get another kind of configuration here. And what we do is we scramble this. And then if you take your device, you take one of these characters, take the first one, and basically you are going to emboss it with an automated click pen that can make a hole in stainless steel. So you just click, it makes a hole, and you do it next to the character, which is, in this case, the first one, so the first one. And you can do that 64 times. It goes really fast. It's actually a lot of fun. And in the end, you will have 2 plates that you can separate from each other. The lower plate has holes that really give you no information, and the upper plate, it's the same thing. So suddenly you have a solution that is completely encrypted. If somebody finds one plate, they find 0 bits, 0 information, and they can never guess your private key. They have to brute force it in its entirety. If you split your normal paper wallet in 2, you can find 128 bits of the 256, and suddenly it becomes way easier to brute force the key. So yeah, that's basically what our graphene does. And then the next question in that end-to-end story becomes, what if I lose these plates, right? And we actually introduce with these plates the first recoverable backup in the industry. So we are able to recover this for you, but in a way that we will never know what your key is. So even if there would be any residual risk at our side, we also really keep in mind that we will never know what your key is. So that's already a bit of a deep dive, let's say, in the second part of our solution. So that brings me to the solution here. So we have an end-to-end solution. We optimize security, but also UX. We do that by this touchscreen hardware wallet that is fully air-gapped. It's very intuitive to use, but it's also super secure. The second thing is no more paper wallets. We introduce a encrypted metal backup solution. And then thirdly, we have an app that communicates with the 0 for the last mile communication with the blockchain. So you always are interacting basically with your hardware device, with your app, and the app does the communication to the blockchain, but your private keys never leave the device. And what is so beautiful about this app, well, it is interchangeable, it is plug and play. So we can say to any cryptocurrency exchange, please just integrate this part of code, and you can directly interact from your software interface to our hardware wallet. You can imagine there are thousands of apps, there are thousands of exchanges all competing for basically the same audience, and the differentiation is quite complex. While in our situation, there are only a handful of players in the world that offer a hardware wallet, and none of them are as advanced as this. And we can actually use that as an interesting growth strategy, because we are the ones who can help them differentiate from their competitors. If they integrate this with an exchange, you can, in a couple of seconds, send your crypto offline, and when you need it again, you send it back online. So it is basically a complementary solution compared to what exchanges offer in their value proposition.
Does this mean that those people are your prime target when you talk about go-to-market? Or are there other people in the value chain?
They are part of it. So I think there is one very important contemplation you need to make, and that is, where is the demand today? And where will the demand be tomorrow? And we know, or let's say we can fairly assume that the demand tomorrow will be for a great part in B2B. There are a lot of interesting reports on that, but the reality is that today, the cryptocurrency space, the $300 billion that it is, it comes from the individual. It comes from people like you and me who are investing in Bitcoin ourselves. You see Libra, you see JP Morgan coin, you see all of these things, business to business stuff, but they aren't really adding any crypto value yet in the space. That will come and it will explode, and our solution is geared towards that evolution. But we know that today, the only segment there really is the B2C customer. So our go-to-market approach is in phases. Phase one is B2C. We validate the solution with individuals, which is by itself also pretty good, because, for example, if you as a B2B customer are thinking about which ones are the solutions that are top of mind that I want to work with, you will think about the B2C solutions. So if we can make a nice, let's say, reputation there, we can build a good reputation there, it will be easy for us to also tap into the B2B market. And you have B2C, then you have B2B2C. So without really having to change much in our hardware solution, we can interact directly with what I just explained. So we can integrate with software wallets, with cryptocurrency exchanges, and they still have B2C customers, but we can help them differentiate in that wholesale resale model. And eventually, our idea is to go to B2B. And then what's so beautiful about the solution is hardware. If you talk about the hardware, this is built from scratch with the world-leading players in their fields to make sure that it is maximum security and maximum usability. And we don't have to change anything about that. So the form factor can remain like this. The only thing we need to change is the couple of business requirements that businesses want to add. For example, we want to be 5 directors, of which 3, if the 3 of them sign a transaction, it goes through. So 3 out of 5 multi-signature, that is something that is more geared towards businesses, but we can actually easily integrate stuff like that, because all the cryptography, all the complexity is already in the device.
Regarding the device, is it a mock-up? Is there anything that is not working on it at the moment? And what about mass production? What are you capable of in that sense?
Yes. So we're actually shooting today videos with the final product. So we've spent quite some time on this, like almost the entire crypto winter, let's say. So we really welcomed the fact that it was winter, because it actually gave us the opportunity to build, instead of, okay, there is another bull market, we have to get this thing in the market, we do a simple MVP. So we believe the MVPs are already in the market. That's why we built the real deal. And so yes, short answer, the thing already works, exists, you can play with it. And if we talk about industrialization, so we looked a bit here and there and made an analysis of where should we build this. And we looked to Asia. We also looked to Belgium. Belgium is where we are based. And we realized that these Belgian parties actually had really good, they knew really well how to build this, especially in terms of quality. And if we look at cost, they weren't actually that bad compared to these Asian companies. And if you think about our solution, it has to be top quality in terms of security, in terms of hardware, and so on. So we said we need to focus first on getting that straight, and let's say the actual margin optimization, that's not our goal today, that can come later. And so we have all these partners in place as we speak. To give you one example, so the casing, which is made of a specific customized metal alloy, we already have the whole batch is already built. So we already built the matrix, the molds to get these things out of. And we already did our first out of tools batch, which we already checked in terms of quality. We were able to put the varnish on it. And in terms of, for example, electronic circuitry board, we also have already established our partnership with the right assembly partner. So in terms of industrialization, we're actually right in the middle of it. And that's why the 26th of May, we are launching this solution on Indiegogo so that people can help us pre-fund the first big batch. And the first batch will actually leave or ship worldwide in October 2020.
Do you say with that your business is mainly based or centered around earning money from providing these kind of hardware sets, or how does the money flow in your direction?
Yep. Well, I would say that by itself, it's already for some people a bit more of a technical, complex subject. So we try to get that a bit more facilitative or easy towards the end user. But we realize that it also has implications for the business model, which means people just want to know very straightforward, what is it? And I think the best way you can do that is price times quantity, simple model where you have unit sales. So that's how we start. But as you already saw, we have also a backup solution where you can actually recover your backup if you lose it. That's where, let's say, recurrent revenue can come into. And we're also the first solution that is able to recover your crypto after your death. So when you pass away, estate planning and so on, there we can also have a nice recurrent revenue section for the B2C segment. And over time, we're also experimenting with product as a service. So if you don't really buy one time, you have more like a subscription model in which if something happens, there are specific services that you can expect. And obviously, the more we go towards B2B, the more that recurrent revenue streams will become logic. And so basically our business will be moving more into making sure that we have such recurrent revenue streams.
Are you, you mentioned Indiegogo, right? So
correct.
Are you using any influencers? Are you giving these devices to a lot of people that can write about it, articles? Because there's a lot of preparation has to be done before this kind of a campaign. And another question is, what kind of QA tests did you do to the device?
Yeah, so good question. We actually have very close contact with the biggest influencers in the space. You will see that gradually coming in because it doesn't make too much sense to go too crazy on that right now. We're still 3 weeks before the campaign, but you will see that between now and actually between last week and the end of the campaign, that there will be a lot of stuff going on with influencers. We also are partnered with Transform Group, which is the biggest blockchain PR company in the space. Their CEO, Michael Turpin, he is one of our advisors. He was hacked himself, $24 million in a SIM swap hack. So he knows exactly what security is and why it's important. And so he's the CEO of Transform. Transform actually brought to market Ethereum, Ripple, Shapeshift, all the big names. And now he and his team are also working on our press release or public relations kind of traction. And apart from that, we have somebody who has been in the space for very long, who knows all the influencers almost personally, and who actually has incredible ways of leveraging that towards us. And we're working with him to also get this traction with the influencers that we don't know, because we already know several influencers from our own network. So those are definitely two important channels that we will go through. Another one was offline events, because we have something that almost none of the other projects have, and that is a physical, tangible product when you are on an event. Other people can say, I have a crypto exchange. The next booth says, I also have a crypto exchange. And we already know, because in the last 2 years, we went to a lot of these events. We even went with the first 3D printed version of it, and we could feel how enthusiastic people were about it. So every time we made a new iteration, the product looked better. We saw an uptake again in that interest in our solution. And now that we have one that you can actually play with, we can imagine it's gonna be pretty even bigger. And one thing I just want to highlight there is what we offer is an offline experience of owning your crypto, something that doesn't exist today, something that Ram just highlighted. Even with hardware wallets, which is the safest way to store your crypto, you still have that feeling, am I doing something wrong? There is some sort of an insecurity going on. And with our solution, you know that hackers cannot attack it, simply because there is an offline wall around it, and it will always be there. The private keys will never be exposed. So in terms of user experience, that can also really means something.
Reuben, I probably got plenty of questions regarding, because of my technical ignorance, how things work, but I would like to focus on that revenue model one more time. Yep. 3 questions. Which price you're going to sell it? What is your manufacturing costs? And how many pieces you have to sell to become break even?
Yes, those are 3 very good questions. And those are 3 questions I will not answer in a public setting like this. I hope you can understand that. But I'm very happy to go in a one-on-one session, just the 2 of us, and talk that through. Yeah.
Okay, but you understand this is an essential question for us to judge.
Of course. And I guess that, sorry. I guess that the one-on-ones are also intended for that.
And let's go quickly back to one of my other questions. That is, you said you create your own private key on the device.
Right.
So what's with the private key that the exchange has? Can I just do a new one, and then I don't get the link? How did they finally get the money from the exchange to my device when I don't know what they use as my private key?
Yes. So indeed, you do not know your private key on the exchange, but you know what your public key is. You know what your address is. And the way the exchange works is that you can basically request a transaction from your public key, your address, to my address. And therefore, you have to enter your password, and the exchange will then decide yes or no. We will sign it with a private key and send it to another blockchain address. So you're basically dependent on the exchange. If you would create a private key with a public key on our device, then you can simply say to your exchange account, please send money from this public key to the public key associated to my hardware wallet. And when the exchange approves, your Bitcoin will be sent to our device on our hardware wallet. And there, the private key is owned by no one else than you, known by no one else than you. And so nobody can steal any cryptocurrencies that is on the public key you just send money to. While anything else that remains on the exchange remains essentially vulnerable.
Yeah, the other thing we probably will also only answer in a one-on-one is what's your marketing budget behind this to get this off the ground? Usually, although when you go heavily on social media, it still requires a lot of budget, because these guys normally, if they promote you, they want to share, or there are other models that I have seen. I'm also partially in the hardware with Ambutex. I know how hard it is to develop, to design, to manufacture, and to get this off the ground. And then you have changes to your software, you need updates, and something isn't working. So all kinds of caveats that are linked to hardware, which you usually don't have to the same extent with software. So it's not an easy business. And the recurring portion, you say you're looking at it, but I think this is essential, because you can sell so many hardwares, but what's next? So you sell it once, get the purchase price, and then you are liable for the next years that it works. So you may want to spend more concrete ideas on how this can be on a subscription base or anything like that? And would people actually pay for that on a subscription base? That's
Yes.
probably the key question.
Well, I remain deliberately a bit on the surface there, but we actually have a 5-year roadmap for our technology. So, and I think there's a lot of stuff we haven't said yet. And I think you highlighted something very important, that this hardware is very difficult to do. It has risks everywhere. And in our case, we actually multiply that complexity with the complexity of building the most secure device there is. And then that we multiply with cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So we are in a niche that practically no entrepreneur wants to be, because we're making it extremely difficult for ourselves. So also in that very beginning, where we decided we had to build this, we really set out and we said we were going to build the best solution in the world. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, because we need to trust this device with our first and last Bitcoin. So what we did is we went to the world leader in nanotechnology called IMEC. So to give you just an example, they taped the first atom-sized chip in 2018. So they can actually make chips the size of an atom. And they have done a lot of other things, but we went knocking on their door. We explained them our vision. We explained them how we wanted to make it technically. We already made our own prototype, and they decided that what we were doing looked exactly like something they wanted to be part of. And so today, IMEC is one of our investors. IMEC is one of our crucial partners with whom we have developed this completely from scratch. So even the circuitry board, everything is built from scratch. And we also realized that that was fun, but we still needed the best cryptographers in the world. So then we looked to COSIC, and COSIC is a COSIC. They are the ones who invented the advanced encryption standard, AES 256. It's the worldwide encryption standard for data. It's used by, officially, at least by the NSA. It's used in WhatsApp messages to encrypt them. It has never been officially cracked, so it's still completely invulnerable, let's say. And now they are leading, so these researchers are leading the post-quantum cryptography standard. Basically, what I want to say with that is we are working already with the people who can predict the future in cryptography and in hardware security. They also hacked the Tesla cars, for example. Recently, we also added Jean-Jacques Quisquater to our team. He's the second reference of the Bitcoin paper. He invented zero knowledge proofs. He was one of the first to work with smart cards over 50 years ago. And he still is one of the leading legends, let's say, in cryptography. So if we talk about the team and the brain capital we have access to, I believe that with them in the back end of our team, we actually have a really future-proof way of building the future. And like I said, we already have a roadmap for the next years of what we actually want to build or attempt to build.
Can I ask a question, Reuben? You were explaining the challenge in relation to the go-to-market, and as also Thomas was asking you, okay, setting the price right, yeah, when entering the market. With what kind of, let me say, event or part in the market you would compare your device that comes closest to that when going to the market? I was thinking about media devices from the media industry, smartphones enabling things in the market. So would you agree? And if so, are you taking that as a benchmark? And if so, are you getting advice from these type of people who have done it already?
I'm trying to figure out what the concrete question is. So
the concrete question is, would you, where do you see the device or that case that comes closest to what you try to map into the market? And in relation to that, do you get advice from these type of people in finding the right entry point? Not only pricing is important, but also then from starting right in order to have a next step, which works as well.
Yeah, it's still a bit vague.
Reuben, I'd like perhaps also it goes to a question that several of the mentors had regarding really, you're now launching the crowdfunding on Indiegogo. and that's a good beginning place. But down the line, will I be able to walk into a shop and buy this device? Can I order it on Amazon? How are you really going to get this to the masses? And that, of course, relates to how did the competitors got it to the masses? And are you getting any advice from them, or are you looking at what they have done and implementing to yourself?
Yes, of course. I think there are always a couple of data points that you have to keep in mind. And I think we are one of those really data-driven companies. Also, if you think about business model canvases and assumptions, every assumption you have to test it. So we built this solution from scratch also with the end user. Every single decision we made was because we made it with the end user. But also, for example, also with pricing. So you have so many different ways you can price, margin-based, cost plus, they call it, competitive-based, but especially, essentially in our case, value-based pricing. So yeah, we actually benchmark as much as we can on about as much as we can find, especially when it comes to obviously competition. And yeah, I'm not sure if I get the full question, but
competition is certainly a good way to start benchmarking. I was looking for similarity in the market, you know, in the past, and can that be compared? And there is not only this pricing you mentioned, there's also a tactical way of forward pricing, anticipating where you're going to be. Yeah, I mean, there are so many variants. You can learn from people who did similar things with devices which are called different. So that's it.
Yep. No, totally. I mean, I've done pricing projects myself in the past. I've done some for very big companies like competitors of DHL, in the B2B world, in the B2C world as well. So we actually even did pricing tests for our device in 6 different countries. So we went to the US. We did pricing. We did pricing questionnaires there. We did it here. So we actually know exactly what the willingness to pay is of people. And we also know at what points there are drop-offs and where the price elasticity lies more or less. So, like I said, we really use the data-driven and assumption testing approach. So I can give you a report outlining every single reason why we are pricing it at this point, other than every point. Obviously, we can also talk about bundle pricing and price skimming and penetration pricing and so on. I mean, it's all stuff that we have thought about, but a bit detailed to go too much into that in this discussion. And also, we don't want to announce our price just yet, so I cannot say a lot about it in the open. The thing for us is, to give you an example, we could say the price today, but price is something that actually doesn't reflect the value of your product as much. All the other things do more. And what I mean with that is, let's say today we announce that the thing costs, I don't know, $2,000. Everybody will close their computer and it'll say, I don't buy this, or almost everybody. While if we don't say a price and we say, you will get 50% discount on the first day that we launch, only on that day, then then these people actually have an idea of, okay, wow, 50%, that's a big discount. I still don't know at what price. So I'm still hooked, I'm still engaged. And they have 4 weeks to get these 7 interactions you need with the brand before you can really buy something. And at the same time, they will get piece by piece, they will get information that will tell them, shit, I really need this solution because it totally makes sense. If you do that in the other way around, and you say it's $2,000, and we actually have everything that makes it $2,000 worth, you will probably lose half of the audience or more. So that's why we also do the pricing in the exact opposite way.
Great. Are there any more questions that we have? For now, no.
Sorry, I have just a short comment. I think you should go to the influencers. You should go to the market and ask them how much are they willing to pay for it. I think this is like more precise.
Telling 3 minutes to commercial.
Yeah. Yes, but Yes, Michael, thank you. But that was exactly what I said. With we went to 6 countries. So Germany was one of them. USA was one of them, where we asked people based on what they saw, how much would you be willing to pay for this? One, they call it the West, and you can actually do that with the Westendorp analysis. And at the same time, what is the likelihood that you would buy it at that price? And you can then ask questions that relate to basically that whole kind of price point you want to get. And that's exactly what we did.
I have a quick comment on one of your points is that you have been on several events showing something tangible. I think that's great. When I go to those events like Bits and Pretzels and other affairs, everybody shows you an app, and that's okay, nice to put something in the hand. However, my experience from being on several trade shows, trade fairs, events, the value is close to zero, and the costs are pretty high because there are lots of people who love to, you know, look at the booths and have a chat with you, and then they grab a Red Bull and they go to the next booth. But they don't buy, and they're not decision makers. And yours is directed very much to B2C at the moment. So even if you sell 2 things there, that would not justify the cost of a booth. What is more valuable if you try to get, you know, maybe a keynote speech on one of those events. So talk to people about security in blockchain. That gives you far more reach, and you don't have to stand there 8 hours a day on the booth and just see all the ignorance of those visitors. So my experience is pretty damn negative for those events, and the costs were usually always pretty high. So maybe just turn it around.
Yeah, good points. Well, I think indeed, if you go to events, you have to find a way that you can also talk on these events. And in the last 2 years, we built really a lot on that. Eventually we got invited to speak on stage, like in Las Vegas in big blockchain conferences, even though we still didn't have a tangible product, but we did have a tangible story and tangible experience in a lot of different fields in blockchain. So we could still make a considerable difference. But I agree that obviously being a thought leader, positioning you like that, being on stage, talking about it and showing that it's very important. I kind of disagree on the event part, because let's say if it costs us $5,000 to maybe $10,000 to do it, and we sell 20 or 30 of these devices, we might already have the full cost back. And we can actually meet many people, for example, influencer, right on the event, and say, hey, I like you, you like me. Let's do a quick review of this wallet. And so on. And suddenly you can do so many things on the event. So I think it's more about how do I leverage everything I can do in that event, and don't be too, let's say, traditional about it. To give one example, you could basically go to an event. You could the people you think these are really people I need to know better. So a journalist or an investor, you can say, here is a VIP card that you can use in the bar next door. And in the bar next door, you just go there the day before. You ask them, here is $500, make cocktails that have the color of my logo. And tomorrow I will be here with 30 people. We will do a little showcase on the wallet. We will talk, everybody that will be there will be like, okay, that's a journalist, that's an investor. Everybody here is interesting. And stuff like that are all things you have to integrate in your, let's say, offline event approach. So it's definitely not, I'm going to have a booth, I'm going to stand behind my booth, people will come, and that's it. So it's always about how can I maximize my presence. And I think if you approach it like that, you will sell more than enough wallets to validate your reason to go there.
I just noted 10,000 divided by 20 is your purchase price.
I would like to close it now, because we are exactly on time. One thing I would recommend everybody to listen to is Kevin Hale. He's one of the partners of YC Combinator. He has online a very good video on pricing 101. So I would recommend you guys watch it, Kevin Hale. Apart from that, Thomas, thank you very much for your questions. Perhaps we can take it offline regarding more concrete on the pricing side. Accelerator Frankfurt is pre-ordering a few of these devices on the Indiegogo campaign. I can tell you the price in this campaign is very attractive. So keep following us, and we're waiting for the campaign to start on May 26th. That's when you can start pre-ordering these devices. Reuben, thank you very much for your time. Mentors, please stay on this call for the next startup. Last one, I really appreciate your comments. Commercial break, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Reuben. I am co-founder and CEO of NGRAVE, and I'm from Belgium. NGRAVE is a blockchain technology company on a mission to radically improve your security and your ease of use when you're managing your cryptocurrencies. Fun fact about myself, I love surfing, and I noticed that Ram, one of the co-founders of the program, is actually an ex-pro surfer. So yeah, please accelerate me on that as well. Why did I become an entrepreneur? Well, when I was 8 years old, I had my first tiny little business, and I just loved it. And these days, every day I go to work for NGRAVE, I just have that same feeling. It's something that comes from inside. It's your nature that says this is what you're supposed to do. What I think I will get out of the program, what I hope to get out of the program is, first of all, obviously grow my network. Secondly, I know that the platform is also used as a due diligence kind of way for potential investors. So I'm confident we will get value out of that as well. And thirdly, we are actually launching our pre-order campaign, the 26th of May on Indiegogo. So these 4 weeks are actually running up to that. So I believe we can gain a lot of traction during the time. And obviously, I just want to show you a little sneak peek of our NGRAVE Zero hardware wallet. Completely offline, you can create and manage your own cryptocurrency accounts. That's it. Next sneak peek will maybe show a little bit more. Thank you very much.